Everybody, this is the news that we are waking up to for Tuesday, February 18th, 2025, day 1091 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine, and day 38 of the complete subversion of the U.S. federal system by malign foreign powers in the shape of Donald Trump and a complicit Republican Party. And Democrats, too. Democrats had 4 years to put this traitor in jail. They failed to do it when they were in control. So there is some complicity on both sides of the aisle. You can't do what they are doing without it. Now, in last night's overnight drone attack on the territory of Ukraine, the Russian Federation sent 176 attack drones of the Shahed 131, 136 class. 103 of them were shot down. Another 67 were lost on location with active countermeasures, for a grand total of 170 out of 176 drones neutralized, or a 96.6% interception rate, which goes to show you that if you give the Ukrainians the tools that they need, they will get the job done. If only the world could agree on what the job was. Now, we're going to go right to international news because overnight an unbelievable number of things happened, and I'm going to focus on the top stories that I think are either not going to be represented in the Western press or will have limited representation in the Western press. And the first is this. Another tanker of the Shadow Fleet, a Russian oil tanker docked in Savona, Italy, suffered 2 explosions below the waterline near the engine room. No oil was spilled. The cargo was not damaged. Does this sound familiar? Isn't this exactly what happened in Ust-Luga just last week or the week before? Somebody is out there targeting Shadow Fleet vessels. Clearly. Now, I don't want to say who it is. I mean, I don't have any idea. It could be anybody, right? Could be anybody. Now, this is a really interesting story. This is a terrible video. It's the only video I could find so far. But what it purports to show is the anti-aircraft air defense working against a drone strike on the Khamenei air base in Syria. Now, it's being reported now, just within the last few minutes, that there are secondary explosions happening at the airbase. So we believe now that the target was either an air defense unit or its stockpile of missiles or an ammunition depot of some kind at Khamenei, which has basically been emptied by the Russians. Very little is left behind. But clearly there's something explosive, and that was the target. Now, we have no idea who targeted this. However, we do know that the Israelis have been destroying stockpiles of ammunition, trying to secure sites where they believe nerve agents and chemical warfare agents might be stored, that kind of thing. So, again, we do not know who did this. Certainly, there are half a dozen rebel groups within Syria that could want to deny the new regime ammunition. Certainly, there are multiple foreign actors that would want to deny the regime ammunition. Among them, Iran, and it has actors inside of Syria. So we just do not know. Now, this clown car, packed in as it is with petroleum jelly, fuel oil, and fertilizer, being driven over a cliff by these suicidal Mickey Mouses here. What we've got here is the U.S. delegation representatives. You see Marco Rubio there, representatives of His Majesty King Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, and Lavrov, 3 hours it took them to work out the peace deal. According to sources, they have completed their 3-hour meeting at the time of this recording, and they are now going on to a working lunch. This may well be the United States and its naive group of inexperienced cuckolds over here simply writing down everything that Lavrov says he needs and telling him that they will deliver it. I don't know how else you get peace in Ukraine done in 3 fucking hours. Please. It is being reported that a meeting between Trump, Putin, and Mohammed bin Salman may be arranged as early as next week. Because what we're really looking at here is not an excuse. I believe that Ukraine talks, without the EU, just these lords of the earth dividing it up amongst themselves, is not the primary goal. It's the whole world that they want. It's the whole world. And what you're looking at are representatives of the 3 largest oil-producing nations on earth. The petroeconomy right here at one table. And make no mistake, number 4 isn't even a close second, right? The smallest producer here, number 4 is Canada, which produces about 5.5 million barrels of oil a day. These guys here produce over 10 million barrels a day each, and the United States another 18 million barrels of oil a day. So what we're really looking at, I think, is the petroeconomy and how these lords of the earth intend to divide it amongst themselves, Ukraine being just a small part of that division. Ukraine, for its part, President Zelensky was very clear. He said that Ukraine will not participate in these negotiations, even if I am asked. The idea that he wasn't asked, that no one from the EU was consulted, is the antithesis of everything that modern diplomacy is supposed to be. Discussion without violence. Peace through negotiation rather than the violence of war. These gangsters don't understand that. And they are content to see the Ukrainians bleed if it profits them. So the mainstream press is reporting that, and I hate to say that, I'm starting to sound like a conspiracy theorist, which I am, which we'll talk about in a minute, or in a separate video that I intend to publish a little later today. But the mainstream media, the big outlets, all seem to be saying that this meeting was mostly a failure, that what Putin depends on, a fractured West, was realized here because these guys could not come to a decision on putting boots on the ground in Ukraine. Okay, what did they come to a decision on? They came to a decision on, God, I hope that's the right picture. I'm just looking at it now, and I'm not sure that that is Annalena Baerbock. I'm so sorry, everybody. Anyway, maybe buy the biography and tell me if I got the right picture. I may not have. At any rate, the German foreign minister for Annalena Baerbock, speaking for Germany and the consortium that met yesterday in Paris, said that we are launching a major package on a scale never seen before. This will happen soon. And the European Union is talking about pledging $700 billion for Ukraine. If Europe steps up like that, Ukraine does not need America. Period. End of conversation. It's just that simple. And what America's response will be, Trump is said to be furious over this. He's said to be, the irony is, right, he's got these unilateral talks happening in Saudi Arabia, and he's irate that the Europeans would dare meet without him. It's insanity of the first order. And I'm so sorry, that may not be the right person. My apologies, everybody. The Telegraph is reporting the terms of the rare earth minerals deal, right? We had some sense of what it was, but we got some good detail today. Again, this is published in the Daily Telegraph, which is a UK newspaper. You can get an online subscription to them. It's very reasonably priced. The term, in writing in the Telegraph, the terms of the contract mean the indefinite economic colonization of Ukraine by the United States. Let's look at the terms. The agreement states that the U.S. and Ukraine must establish a joint investment fund. Okay, that seems reasonable. It covers the economic value related to Ukraine's resources, including mineral resources, oil and gas resources, ports, and other infrastructure. And the U.S. wants to take 50%, half of Ukraine's current revenues from resource extraction and 50% of the financial value of all new licenses issued to third parties for monetization. Hey, that's a real nice country you got there. Nice extraction economy potential. It'd be a shame if something happened to it, huh? I mean, that's basically what's being said here. This is extortion in clear language. Washington planned to have near total control over most of Ukraine's raw materials and resource-based economy. The fund would have had the exclusive right to determine the methods, selection criteria, terms, and conditions for all future licenses and projects. So for roughly $78 billion according to the General Accounting Office, it's 86.3 billion that has actually been sent to Ukraine, mostly in weapons, a little bit of cash for humanitarian aid and to keep the government functioning. But all up, we think the United States has granted directly to Ukraine or loaned to Ukraine about $86.3 billion. And for $86.3 billion, we're going to take half of your extraction economy and we're going to put ourselves in charge of it. You know, growing up, one of the hallmarks of being an American that I was taught was a sense of fairness. That you work. One of my first jobs out of college was selling radio advertising, right? Airtime. Two things that should be free to everybody. And so I worked very hard to find those customers who were a right match for our rock and roll station. I put in contravention to tradition in the marketplace. I put every Harley shop, tattoo joint, strip joint, and bar on the radio because that's what our listeners wanted. That's who our listeners were. And I don't believe that a single one of my clients ever regretted their decisions. We create win-wins. We do not do this. This is not right. This is not proportionate. This is not fair. This is, in fact, blackmail, extortion of the worst sort by a bunch of gangsters and thieves who have subverted the United States federal system, by the way, clearly. The Telegraph goes on to say, if this project were approved, Trump's demands would take up a larger share of Ukraine's GDP than Germany's reparations under the Treaty of Versailles, which, if you remember from your history class, were so detrimental to the economy of Germany that they led virtually directly to World War II. This is the world that Trump wants to live in, where he is laying the groundwork for World War III if he doesn't get what he wants. And he must never be given it. Okay, that is the news that we are waking up to for Tuesday, the 18th of February, 2025. I'm Peter Alexievich, and I will see you in tonight's live. Inshallah.